Welcome to the Technology Pulse podcast, hosted by DALY Computers, providing comprehensive technology solutions to the public and private sectors for more than 35 years. Visit www.daly.com to learn more. Today's episode is brought to you by Verkada, providing physical security solutions that integrate seamlessly behind a single cloud-based software platform. And now here's your host, Rick from DALY.
Joining us today on the Daily Technology Pulse podcast is Patrick DelBuono from Verkada. Patrick, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Rick. Doing well. It is great to be back on the podcast.
Absolutely. And, we had such a great time last time. I knew I had to get you back on. And you recently presented, along with DALY, at the Meek Show here in Maryland. And when I saw that presentation, I said, man, we've got to get that on the podcast, because you were really talking about how physical security has evolved. And I think a lot of people just take it for granted that what we have today has always been here. But I just remember the very first slide you showed at Meek, you were showing some really old technology. I mean, there was a flip phone, there was a VHS tape, and all of this is right in my wheelhouse. And then you showed a taxi. So I'm guessing that goes from the days when you used to have to stand at the corner and hail a taxi versus you just plug things into a rideshare app, right?
Exactly, Rick. Yeah, I really picked those images because I think it's a great analogy for, kind of what we've seen in the physical security market. We've seen technology in our daily lives change so much in how we, not only its power, but also in how we utilize it and how we think about it. And I think oftentimes within the physical security market in particular, we don't necessarily apply those same principles of evolution to physical security that we do in other aspects of our life when it comes to technology.
And so it's amazing to stop and think how far things have really come, because how long ago would you say that it was those wired cameras that were all over buildings? How long ago was that technology first came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk CCTV, it's been around for a long time, and, the technology has changed, over the last 2-3 decades or so. But I think where the rubber really meets the road here, Rick, is that while the technology has changed in terms of the infrastructure and resolution and things like that, I think in many cases, people are still utilizing that technology and thinking about it in the same way that they did 3 decades ago. And that technology has changed dramatically, as you touched on. And why aren't we utilizing that technology to be more proactive towards our security instead of reactive?
When you're talking about being proactive with security, talk to us a little bit more about that, because I think you have a very specific picture in your mind.
I do, absolutely. So, I'll kind of give an example. I think when people think of video security, it's traditionally been an incident occurs, and then we use that video to investigate what happened and make some decisions to take some action, right? Whether that be legal action or disciplinary action in the case of maybe a school. Whereas, the direction we're heading, and one of the things that Verkada really prides itself on, is being able to utilize some analytics and, other software-driven technologies within the platform to help customers be proactive so that we can prevent some of these situations from happening in the first place.
Yeah, and preventive is something that it's a terminology that you hear thrown around a lot. You have preventive maintenance on your vehicle. You have preventive maintenance on your body, where they talk about preventive healthcare. And so preventing things it sort of gets a bad rap in certain instances, because you get the people who are trying to tell you, well, you want to prevent these things, so you want to take this pill every day, or you want to you want to prevent these things, so you want to go ahead and let us change out that part. But preventive here is really it's more holistic, because when you're talking about physical security, especially, you talk about how the technology has evolved, but the incidents have evolved, because what we consider now to be almost an emergency situation isn't something you didn't bat an eye at 5, 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, well said, Rick. I think an example that comes to mind is, access control and visitor management. I think traditionally in that space, we've all done it, right? Where we've gone to check in somewhere, whether it be a school or a doctor's office, and we always see either the binder or the clipboard on the desk at the receptionist desk. And it's fill in your name, what time you checked in. Maybe you have to put down a driver's license number or something to that effect. But, how do we use modern technology to help keep maybe bad actors that shouldn't be in a school, for example? How do we help prevent them from gaining access to begin with? Something that we rolled out about a year ago, and it's been really, really popular, particularly with our education customers, is within our guest check-in. We call it Verkada Guest. It's essentially a software-managed visitor check-in, check-out solution. Being able to integrate into things like the National Sex Offender Registry, FBI Most Wanted list, Interpol, including some as well as some local jurisdictions databases. And what that allows you to do is, as part of that check-in process, actually performing a real-time background check. And this week, I'm actually in Austin, Texas, at our partner and customer event, and they shared a really cool statistic with me yesterday, which was that over the last year, Verkada Guest has checked in over 1 million people through our system. And a school district here in Texas recently was able to prevent a sex offender from entering a school using our solution to perform that background check. So you talk about preventative versus reactive, right? It's preventing that bad actor from gaining access to begin with, and hopefully eliminating bad situations that could result.
That is phenomenal. And because you would never stop to think about that, because I have checked in at my kid's school and I have done the whole scan the barcode on the back of the driver's license. And all that did was pull up my picture, or it populated my name and my address. And you never stop to think that this system could very easily be integrated into these other systems. It's like the no-fly list. If you were to show your ID at TSA at a checkpoint and you're on the no-fly list, buzzers and bells are going off and people are escorting you to another part of the building. So I would have never, in my wildest dreams, and I guess maybe that's because I'm not thinking in that critical mode that I probably should be when it comes to security in schools, that you could catch somebody as they're trying to enter the building before they even get anywhere near any students. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, well said, Rick. And, that's one of the things I really enjoy about being a part of Verkada, and my role in particular is it gives me the ability to work with our trusted partners like DALY to help get the word out that these things are available. Because, as you touched on it, a lot of people don't know that these things exist and that there's better ways that we can be doing it. I'll take that example one step further. Imagine a parent coming to pick their student up from school. And obviously, with schools are typically managing all of this student and parent information in a student information system. Think of it as like a database where you may have, here are the students, here are their parents or guardians, here are their teachers, kind of manages the whole ecosystem of people within a school or a school district or a university. And as we've talked about, Rick, on the last podcast, people are every organization's greatest asset. And so being able to protect them and is obviously essential to what we're doing here at Verkada. So something that we've done recently is actually some API integrations that are open. So we can now integrate with a vast majority of the most popular student information systems out there. So real life example, imagine you're going to pick your child up from school for a doctor's appointment. You could come into that, that receptionist area. Our system runs off of essentially an iPad. You would type in your name, and what that's doing is pinging back to the school or the district student information system and populating a pull down list, if you will, of, here are the students that I have guardianship over, right? And then being able to click on the appropriate student, list out a reason why you're checking them out, and then that talking within our system to be able to alert the teacher, for example, that you are here to pick up your child. So once again, just another way that we're helping our customers do things more efficiently, quicker, and more proactively.
Incredible. And then one other point I want to raise where you talked about the folks that are still relying on the clipboard, because a lot of people don't realize this. Now, I happen to be married to a healthcare professional, and the old days of the sign-in sheet sitting on a desk, that got bombarded by the federal government when HIPAA came out, because having a patient's name just sitting out there for anybody who walks into the office, could be the mailman, or could be the mail carrier, could be the UPS delivery person, or FedEx or whatever delivery service you use, could be someone who's walking in to ask to use the bathroom, could be somebody who's walking in to ask for a glass of water. Anybody who walked into that office could see the information of the other people who had been there. And that's a violation of privacy. So you don't think about that when you're just having people sign in and sign out on a clipboard, that once again, that information is then out there for anybody to see. They get the person who visited the school's name, they get a student's name. Just imagine what you could do with that information, that little tiny bit of information. I know this student belongs to this parent, and I know that this parent took the student out of the school at this time. I can't even begin to fathom what a bad actor could do with that type of information. So obviously that's a problem, again, you're helping to solve.
Yeah, well said. Your example really resonates with me. My wife is also a healthcare professional. She works in a hospital setting as an RN. And, I love that you brought that up, because I think, we tend to focus when you and I talk and we do these podcasts, I feel like we tend to focus on a lot of education specific examples. And there's nothing wrong with that, because education customers have complex security concerns. Obviously, we're dealing in many cases with minors, and we need to protect privacy and things of that nature. Not to mention our children are just our country's greatest asset, right? They're the future of our nation. Not to mention you guys have built a really wonderful business around helping to service those types of customers. But these examples, they really run the gambit of customer types, whether it be healthcare, whether it be retail, kind of the list goes on, hospitality. These examples can then be extrapolated out to other industries as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Rick. Thanks.
That's what I'm here for, man. It's why I do what I do. So we're talking about sign in. Now, I also know that another big area that Verkada really helps with is video. You were talking a little bit before about video, and like you said, it could be used for, everything from punitive to putting somebody's picture up. Here's the person that did something bad here. Are there other ways that video surveillance has suddenly become more proactive, where again, it's, obviously seeing a camera can be a deterrent, but are there other ways that organizations, school systems, governments, even private enterprise can be a little more proactive with their video?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. How much time do we have?
Not that much.
No, I'm just teasing. But no, I mean, an example that comes to mind immediately is, the use of facial recognition, right? And I think we touched on this a little bit in our last podcast, but, that ability to utilize facial analytics to track people throughout an environment and create persons of interest profiles. So whether it's someone you want to keep tabs on, whether that's someone that's a bad actor, maybe they've been at your location already and caused trouble of some kind, and you have a video image of their face, or even someone that maybe you receive photos from the police of folks within the community that shouldn't have access to your facilities, your schools, your healthcare clinics, whatever it might be. Being able to create persons of interest profiles so that when those people's faces are detected on any of your cameras across your entire environment, including multiple sites, Rick, being able to be alerted in real time that person is there. In addition, we also see it used for positives as well. It's not just to prevent bad actors from gaining access. In addition, think about in maybe a retail setting. Maybe you have a VIP customer, and you want to make sure that every time they show up, your staff is alerted so that they can roll out the red carpet, if you will, and kind of show them a great customer experience. Because I think what a lot of organizations, whether it's education, healthcare, retail, hospitality, we're finding that people are so focused on the customer experience, right? And that what that experience is like interacting with your organization. And if we can help improve that, all that means is that your customers, your students, your faculty, whoever it might be, are happier. They're happier with you as an organization.
And I never even thought to use it in a positive sense, which shows you how dark I immediately go. I immediately go worst case scenario, but I love that. I love the idea of, like you said, that VIP customer, they've walked in the door. We recognize them. Alarms, not the bad alarms, the good alarms go off. It's, hey, you want to go greet this person, grab a cup of coffee. I mean, so let me ask this. I mean, is the system intuitive enough where you could have some sort of note, say the VIP customer prefers a coffee with cream and 2 sugars? Can the system, once that facial rec comes through, can the system then ping an alert out that says, John Smith, our VIP customer is here, loves coffee with cream and 2 sugars? I mean, is it that intuitive? Can we do that sort of thing?
Yeah, we're certainly getting there, Rick. Within our system, for any person of interest profile, we can first off, we can name that profile. So if we know this person's name, we can actually put their name in, right? So that we can greet them by name. If we don't know their name, we can put notes, whether it be, bike thief or vandal or whatever or VIP customer, right? Whatever the example is. But in addition, adding tags. It's funny that you bring up sort of point of sale, because we've recently started to go down the route of utilizing APIs to tie into customers' other databases that they might have. So a great example is, think about a point of sale system. Let's use a coffee shop as an example. Imagine if you, as the owner of a coffee shop, could find all of the video footage associated with someone ordering a cappuccino. So where I'm going with this is being able to tie into that database so that you as a business owner can get some insight into, okay, what's going on when people order cappuccinos, right? And is it a certain time of day when cappuccinos are ordered? Is it certain type of people that like cappuccinos? And that helps you to make business decisions, just to make that customer experience better. Also being able to see, okay, well, when people order cappuccinos, they oftentimes also order a croissant, right? So being able to get some intelligence into your business to help you make better business decisions.
That's phenomenal. And that, we use it in the retail scenario, but that could be utilized anywhere. That could be utilized in education. It could be utilized in government, could be utilized in private enterprise. Any type of situation, you could take that sort of intelligence and to really be able to work that's just mind blowing.
Yeah, we're always innovating. We're always doing really cool stuff. As I mentioned, I'm here at our big annual event this week, and they announced some things that, frankly, they're things that folks that are a lot smarter than myself are working really hard to build. And I'm really excited to be part of this journey and, help our partners and our customers, experience all the different things that they can do with these technologies. And, we're really positioning ourselves not just to be, kind of that traditional security manufacturer, access control, cameras, but really position ourselves to be the operating system of people's physical spaces, their buildings. We really feel like Verkada can be the engine that helps our customers, no matter what sector, really run their buildings. And that's really where we're positioning and where we're moving it to in the future.
That's terrific. Now, I do want to say one other thing. I want to mention one other thing that you talked about. And again, it goes along this path of evolution. And it's something that you had talked about during the presentation, during the Meek show. When you talk about sensors and how sensors, again, a lot of times you think of sensors being very reactive, but looking at it in being proactive. Because, and I'm just going to give a little bit of an example. When I was back in school, if the classroom got too hot, the teacher told you to take your notebook and fan yourself, because there was no air conditioning back then. All the school buildings, they opened the window, and on hot days, the hot air would just continue to blow inside. And maybe if you were lucky enough, you got a cross breeze. Well, now you don't open windows. Now everything is air conditioned. But if that air conditioning goes down, particularly if you're in a classroom that has a lot of technology, it's catastrophic to think what heat could do to students, staff, faculty, and equipment. Is that something that you often find? You have sensors that, obviously, we talked about the vape sensors in the bathrooms, and you talk about all the different types of sensors, but like heat and humidity, is that something that you see a lot of use for in these types of scenarios?
Absolutely. Many states now are requiring CO2 monitoring in public spaces like schools or libraries, or because the health benefits of making sure that we're breathing nice, clean oxygen, it's good for everyone. There's been studies done that show that higher levels of CO2 in rooms cause drowsiness, they cause lack of focus, and particularly in an institution where students are there to learn and be productive and learn those skills that are going to carry them forward for the rest of their lives. Making sure that people have a great experience and can have energy and be able to think critically and learn. That's so important. So a lot of states are actually moving to require things like this. And I'll tease some feature and functionality that you should all be on the lookout for. But as we move more towards becoming that company, helping customers manage their physical spaces, think integrations in terms of temperature rises too high in a room or CO2 rises too high in a room, actually being able to talk back to your HVAC and be able to automatically make changes in real time to remedy those situations. So we teased that with our visitors here in Austin this week at our event. And you could just see some of the heads in the audience looking around like, wow, can that really be done? So we're really excited for when it will eventually go live. Like I said, this is a teaser here, everyone. But this is the way we're thinking is how do we automate these processes and allow businesses or schools to focus on what's important? And in the school instance, that's keeping kids healthy, safe, and, giving them a great education.
And I know you said that this is future looking, it's forward looking, and I love it. I got to say, absolutely love that you're going in that direction. Would there also be, so it could talk to the HVAC system. Could it also talk to, say, building maintenance to let them know that there's a problem, set up some sort of alert?
100%. So all of our sensors give you the ability to, first off, our sensors measure all sorts of things. It's not just vape, which we touched on in the last podcast episode, Rick, but everything from temperature, humidity, air quality index, particulate matter in the air, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, noise, motion. There's all these things that our sensors are measuring. And being able to set up real-time alerts when any metric reaches a certain threshold. And that threshold is set by the customer based on their environment and their needs. And being able to be alerted, an administrator, a building maintenance person, being able to be alerted in real time that these incidents are occurring. Example we hear quite a bit. All of our devices are network devices, like a lot of things these days. And so typically our conversations with customers are very IT centric, or they can be. And IT is usually involved in the conversation. And frankly, we love that. But think about data closets. While we're a cloud solution, we recognize people have invested a lot of time, money, resources, and people towards building out data center infrastructure. And in many cases, it's what keeps your organization running on a daily basis. And, if you have a bad, you have an incident where temperature and humidity spike in a data closet somewhere, all of that investment is at risk, and it's expensive to replace, time consuming to replace, particularly with everything we're seeing in the market right now with supply chain issues and things like that. imagine some of the implications that could have to your organization. So being able to be alerted in real time so that you can take active measures to prevent those things from happening. So yeah, we're absolutely thinking that way, and we're already doing that for a vast majority of our customers. That's really, Rick, that's really a theme, I think, across Verkada as a whole, is giving customers insight as to what's going on, alerting them based on certain parameters that the customer sets up, and then allowing them to be, because they're alerted in real time, allowing them to take really quick action, because oftentimes time elapsed after an incident occurs, it compounds the issue. It compounds the problem, right? So being able to address these things quickly is just one of the many values that customers are getting out of a solution like ours.
Definitely. And of course, we talk about these future things. These are things that when they come out, DALY is, of course, going to be at the forefront, helping you to spread that message. In the meantime, obviously, if anybody has a question, they want to look at something, I know you've shown some really amazing demonstrations. They've got a way to do that. We can get them hooked up with that, correct?
Oh, for sure. It's been an absolute joy working with DALY, with the whole DALY family. You all were represented here at our event, and we had a great time. Got to sit down and have some strategic conversations about how we help address, some of your customers, pain points, and help them better manage their organizations on a day-to-day basis. Absolutely, we're available to come on site, have conversations virtually if you prefer. I would say the best next step there, Rick, is if you're interested in learning more, reach out to your DALY sales representative, reach out to DALY as a whole, and they'll get you tied in with us. And we're happy to work together to show you a demonstration, provide proof of concepts. We do offer free trials too. So if you want to kind of test drive the car before we're completely okay with that. And looking at total cost of ownership analyses, so you can see kind of what a particular Verkada solution is actually going to cost you over the life cycle versus maybe another solution out there. We're here to help you, and we want to make sure you're buying something that meets your needs and that drives a ton of value for you. We want to sell you something that you're going to use and not sell you something that you're not going to need.
Definitely. Again, we have customers on all different ends of the spectrum. They're not just the end users. They're the decision makers. They're the people who fill out the check, and then the people who sign the check. Being able to have that information ahead of time, I think, will really make the decision a lot easier for a lot of folks. So love to hear that you're working with us that way.
For sure, Rick. If I could share a quick story, I had an 8th grade, speaking of education, I had an 8th grade history teacher. He was one of my favorite teachers growing up. He would give us all of the questions and answers to the test the day before the test. And his whole methodology behind that was, I'm going to tell you what I want you to know. And the flip side of that is, because there won't be any surprises when you crack open that test, I don't want to hear any excuses when you didn't know that material. So I really love it with Verkada. We kind of take that approach. We really want to sit down and be consultative with you and try and find the solution that's going to best meet your needs.
It goes back to the theory of prevention.
It does. 100%.
Patrick, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Love the information that you shared. And, I think you've already set yourself up for another visit. We're going to have to do another episode once these new innovations come online.
You bet. It's always fun chatting with you, Rick. And like I said, if anyone wants to learn more, reach out to DALY. They're going to take excellent care of you. They're all wonderful people. They can get us involved, and we can sit down and have a conversation.
Will do. Patrick, thanks again for being on the Technology Pulse. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet. Have a great one, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Technology Pulse podcast produced by DALY. Before we go, we would like to remind you of a few legal considerations. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of DALY or its leadership. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide legal, financial, or other professional advice. The content of this podcast is protected by copyright laws and may not be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted without the written permission of DALY Computers Inc. Any products, services, or other references mentioned in this podcast are for informational purposes only and do not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by DALY. Thank you again for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at marketing@daly.com.